We also reflect on the journey that brought us here, where in the past we designed and tested different approaches, learning and unlearning with the different approaches, such as FinClinic's Lab. Would like to thank the partners who were willing to engage, share their resources, and participate in piloting the different approaches, which has resulted into a perfected FinClinic approach. The FinClinic approach is a practical, beginner-friendly guide that demonstrates how consumer data and market research can be transformed actionable solution through a human-centered design approach. So during the launch session today, we will introduce the playbook and hear from a past FinClinic participant who will share the first-hand insights on how the approach has influenced the product development and market engagement. We will also make an important announcement for those interested in continuing this journey with FSDT, whether by expanding into new markets or remaining existing products to better meet evolving customer needs. Thank you once again for joining us today and for your continued commitment to advancing financial inclusion and financial health in Tanzania. I wish you a very engaging and insightful session. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Emmanuel, for those opening remarks. And I'd like to just notify our guests on the call that we are recording the session for the purposes of sharing for future reference. You have the option of adding your comments and questions to the chat throughout the session as we continue. And without further ado, next, we would now like to hear from Julia Seifert, who is our research consultant here at the Trust, and she will tell you more about the FinClinic playbook and the FinClinic intervention as a whole. Karibu, Julia, for your presentation.
Thanks, Dana. Thank you very much, Bernie and Emmanuel, and again, welcome to everybody on the call. It's a pleasure to be with you today. So I have the pleasure to basically take you through a glimpse of the playbook, what the playbook covers, and how you may use it. So what we've tried to do within the playbook is basically we've tried to capture our learnings, and we've tried to capture the how to do a FinClinic. So how do you transform a market problem into an evidence-based solution? So this is kind of what the playbook is trying to answer. We don't claim that we have all the answers, but we have really, over multiple years now tried to resolve that question, and we have gathered quite a number of learnings, and we felt it's time to share that with you so that you can actually leverage this. So we truly encourage you that after this launch, you can go to the website of FSCT and you can download the playbook. And you can use it for your own endeavors. So whether you are, for example, a financial service provider who wants to apply this internally for product and solution design, whether you are a regulator who wants to apply this for evidence-based regulation design, whether you are, let's say, a research house or a design thinker and you want to use this, to apply with your clients, please do. Our objective is to share this as widely as possible for people to apply and use. If you're an FSD or market facilitation type of organization, again, you're welcome to use the resource. So about the playbook itself. So as I said, it's an implementing guide for FinClinics. FinClinics are data-driven innovation sprints that transform market challenges into evidence-based financial solutions. And it's really a result of the FSDT, experimenting with financial sector innovation for more than a decade. And we're also, we try to share the most effective ways that we found to really, create solutions that matter for underserved population segments. So why we created the playbook? So we realized the challenges that there's still a gap. We have a lot of financial inclusion initiatives, but they keep on failing. They're well intended, but they don't work. So usually they address the wrong problems. We generate only surface level insights, and we only produce incremental ideas, meaning that it's not necessarily transforming what we have been doing. So we are not pushing the needle. I would like to request everybody who's on the call to mute themselves as they come in. Thank you. And lastly, we're failing to engage the right stakeholders at critical moments. So sometimes we're doing design, but we're doing design in isolation. So what is our response? Our response is the FinClinic. So we asked ourselves, how might we use our data to catalyze sustaining and impactful innovations? And that's kind of like how we came up with the FinClinic. But the FinClinic is only, I would say, the tip of the iceberg or the peak of the iceberg. We have started way, way back. We've started way back. What I mean by that is initially in the early 2015s, FSDT did initiatives such as FinDisrupt and the SME Finance Innovation Challenge Fund. Here we try to convene and catalyze innovation. We try to de-risk innovation and encourage the financial sector and actors to pursue new technologies and offerings, try out new business models. Following that, we went a step ahead. We did something called Data Disrupt and Beamer Challenge. So they used insights strategically, and they also tried to build capacity within the respective financial service providers, to foster database innovation. After that, as Emmanuel had said, we worked on FinCites Lab from around 2009, which was a really systemic way to try and solve problems and facilitate innovation among financial service providers. And then basically we took all those learnings and then moved towards FinClinic. Really, the key learnings between FinCites Lab and FinClinic are around the type of insights that we use to make certain choices, the way we define the problem, but also in terms of the time it takes to get more stakeholder focused, which in most cases is the financial service provider, considering their timelines and their needs. So where is the opportunity really? So we have seen really tremendous success. Financial inclusion has increased from 65 to 76% from 2017 to 2023, but there's only 13% of Tanzanians that have regular income sources, and still 98% of our payments are made in cash. And key segments such as women and youth, they are disproportionately underserved. So there is opportunity. So how can this playbook help you? So the playbook can help you because it proposes a dual track approach, which I will get into in a bit. And it shares techniques and lessons for overcoming 4 critical challenges. It is for, as I said, for financial service providers. It's for enabling organizations, such as, for example, FSCT-like organizations, or, for example, regulators, who are also supposed to enable the markets. But it's also for design thinkers or research houses and all. By following the playbook, really, you can design solutions that are more desirable, so based on genuine user feedback and preferences. They're viable, in meaning sustainable in terms of the business model and market structure, that are more feasible in terms of implementable with available resources and capabilities for the specific organization or entity that wants to implement them, and that are more impactful, because what we're trying to do is transformative changes to achieve transformative changes. And more importantly, you can also build your organizational capacity and capabilities, because we believe that the playbook gives you a guide on how to improve human and data-centered design of solutions, which is a key capability that a lot of financial service providers really look for. So I hope you're ready to transform how we approach financial inclusion challenges. So what does the playbook cover? So it covers the dual approach, which is really the core of the FinClinic model, the dual track process. It covers the common challenges that we've realized exist in solution design, and particularly in evidence-based solution design, and how to overcome them. And then how to get started and what to expect, as you start on that journey. So yeah, let's see how can we really build solutions that work for the people who need it the most. So in our case, as FSCT usually focusing on women and youth. So the FinClinic uses different tools and methodologies. It uses data analytics, economic analysis, psychology, product design, processes, as well as user centricity or human-centered design. And this is really the human-centered design part is so key for the FinClinic approach in itself. And I believe as we're talking to Isaac from Sun Securities, you will see how that really came out in the process itself. So what does it mean to have a dual track approach, and how does the human centricity reflect in that dual track approach? So a dual track approach means that you are both user-centered and organizationally sustainable. And within the organizational sustainability, there is also a human aspect, the stakeholders that you need to manage. And that is often something we underscore in the process. We don't give enough credit to that process in itself. We think it's about data. We think about the business case has to make sense, but it's more so also about managing internal stakeholders in an organization. Really, we believe that the approach is helping to resolve some of those common pitfalls and create concepts that are not only implementable, but also sustainable. So basically what we're saying is that we have the problem-solving process, and we have the stakeholder management process. And across the phases of, understanding the problem, observing what really matters, understanding the point of views of the user in question, ideating the solution, prototyping the different solutions, and then testing them at scale, you at the same time need to understand, map your stakeholders, align them, reframe together with them, speak their language, develop with them, plan together with them, and monitor with them so that they can see the success and results of whatever you've been implementing. So the idea here is really that, you use data, but you also use data to better define your problem, better understand the point of view of who you're trying to solve for. But at the same time, there is a need to translate this into the stakeholder management process and to keep people aligned. So it's very important that you have structured engagement with the stakeholders as you're also unlocking, the problem. It's very important that as you're defining the pain point, you also map them against organizational goals and operational models. And as you're defining results, what is the solution that we want to desire? Also, you need to, have feasible plans to really implement this. So there is a practicability component to this that in some cases we really don't think enough about. So yes, through this approach, we believe that you can overcome also some of the key challenges. So one of the key challenges is defining the right problem. It's very important that we define problems that actually outside our domain. We have to tackle a market problem, not an organizational problem. If we are just set out to solve our own KPI issue or a narrow technical problem, we will not be able to find the right information to address the market. So ideally, we would solve a market problem and then translate that back into our OKRs and our KPIs. And I'll talk to that in a bit. So we actually need to define, what is a quality problem? And that sounds a bit funny, but it's really, this is at the heart of the process. So the problem statement should be user focused and not internally focused. It should not presuppose a solution. It should be need oriented. So instead of saying, I want to develop a savings solution, is why do people save? People save usually because either they want to mitigate a certain risk or because they have a certain goal that they aspire to. And that's what we need to be focusing about. Can the problem be solved without understanding the user needs, or is it just a technical problem? So if it's just a technical problem, then maybe it's not the right problem. And yeah, is it meaningful? Will it really create a meaningful impact, or will it just resolve a minor issue, actually addressing a key need for the user? So in order for us to do that, we've deployed tools like the 5 whys. We've done a lot of problem reframing. We've done a lot of problem solution separation. So where, you push people towards only thinking about the problem, don't go into the solution yet. And to disaggregate, okay, the nitty-gritties of the actual problem, what is really the underlying issue? So it means that you always need to start from the user's pain point, not your product. If your problem statement could apply to any financial service provider, it's surely too generic. And you have to research what keeps your users awake at 3 a.m. at night. Their specific struggle, not your KPI. So for example, if your problem says, how might we improve financial inclusion? You're potentially not able to resolve this very effectively. But rather, you need to think about, okay, how might we help young gig brokers manage irregular income streams effectively? So here we think about, okay, this is a problem that these guys have. So they have irregular income, yeah? And how can they manage their income streams more effectively? Because when you manage income streams more effectively, that's when we see, ability to manage day-to-day income. We see ability to achieve and plan for long-term goals, shock resilience, but also, ability to, to feel more confident about your day-to-day decision, which are the core dimensions of financial health. What is the second challenge? So the second challenge we have observed in this process is that you need to actually have meaningful insights, okay? So for example, the insight that I gave you in the beginning, 65% to 76% is the increase in financial inclusion from 2017 to 2023. Okay, that's cool. That's good to know. It's good to know maybe on a national scale, yeah, to know, okay, are we getting in the right direction? Are we hitting it well as a sector? But how does that help me as a financial service provider? It doesn't really, yeah. The insight needs to be more clear. It needs to really matter to the user. It needs to be, very accurate for the studied group. So it has to be specific enough. For example, if we speak about women, are we speaking about women overall? Are we speaking about women who are young women? Are we speaking about dependent women? Are we speaking about female traders? So I can tell you we've done of recent a lot of work in disaggregating gender statistics, and it's day and night between analyzing the data of female traders, analyzing data of young female dependents or those who just entered into the workforce. So we have to be as specific as possible because really the problems are so different. But also it needs to be actionable. So again, you kind of have to rank, look, does the insight make sense? So you have to ask yourself, does it reveal something new? Does it confirm something? Does it challenge something that you've been thinking? Does it provide underlying motivations and context? Does it show clear opportunity? And would someone in your organization say, well, we already knew that? Surely then maybe there's something else we could have done. And so that's why it's really important to get from an observation towards strategic insight. So on the right-hand side here, you can see an example. So an observation, for example, is many women spend money at home rather than banks, okay? Now the strategic insight, financial products for women need to combine the accessibility and privacy of informal methods with the security and growth of formal services. Now, when you go through this strategic insight, you can see it's very actionable. It gives you almost a guideline. Okay, we have to not move away from the informal ways of doing things. We've just find a way to either digitize or formalize them because that's where they feel secure, they feel it's accessible, and they feel it's private. So it's much more actionable than the initial observation or the insight I gave you previously. So how do you do this? So we do that a lot in our FinClinics through journey mapping. So here we identify where the pain points, where the misses. We analyze the ideas we have, but also through affinity mapping. So where do we see closeness of certain ideas coming up? So yeah. The third challenge really that we saw over the years is the need to develop transformative ideas. So successful ideas need to set ambitious goals. They don't have to be afraid to fail and focus on the impact the solution can achieve. They shouldn't overly emphasize the constraint. And this is more difficult than you think. In most cases, when we run such kind of sessions, we realize that we are very much stuck, and that is for all of us, in our old ways of doing things. If we think of future thinking, if we think about how do we, transform a sector, for example, if we think about how do we transform our business, we think so much about, oh, we tried this, it didn't work, or we tried that and it didn't work. So opening ourselves up and come up with very transformative ideas is really something which sounds easier than it's actually done. So as you come up with ideas, you actually also again need to reassess the ideas that you come up with. Does the idea challenge an industry assumption? Yeah, about a certain product or service. Would implementation require a significant change into the system? And is the idea meaningful and different from what exists already in the market? So how have we been doing this? Is we have been asking ourselves or have been creating so-called wow now how matrices. These are matrices, to rank ideas, whether they are feasible, whether they are viable, and if they're in the how. Here, in most cases, it's a solution that's very, very viable, but feasibility of implementation is very challenging. And that's where you see the room of innovation. And that's where you see the room of partnership, which is something we have realized in our FinClinics is a key component of innovation in our market. It's some of the things are very hard to implement on your own, but rather you implement them through partners who are capable and who bring something else to the table. There's also the engaging the user himself, thinking about different ways how you can mesh up ideas together, because that's sometimes where you can actually come up with a new solution, but also how you build analogies to how these things work. You translate something that worked in some sector or in another part of life into the financial sector or into the financial life of people. And that's how we can really come up with transformative ideas. So as an example, it's and also really important is it's really important that you don't judge your ideas as you brainstorm them. Don't self-censor yourself as you try to come up with solutions. You need to have a separate session to then rank your ideas. and don't filter them previously. We had done in this whole process, we have at one time, we had, this was during the FinSights Lab time, we had a room full of over 200 ideas at one point. And that's how the process should go, you know? You have to have a lot of ideas and then you filter out and you narrow down to the best. So really, we need to push our idea creation. So what does that mean? We need to move from what's called incremental. So it's just like, you know, we're changing something small to really transformative kind of ideas. So for example, an idea that would kind of be incremental is like adding SMS notifications to a banking service. So that's a good to have. It's not that it's a bad idea, yeah, but it's not going to transform the way we do our it's not going to transform the way our financial solutions working. So, but for example, saying, okay, community-based credit scoring using social capital instead of financial history. Okay, that's transformative because it's new. It's not really done in our market. And it's actually it's translating something that we have seen already being done in an analog world, you know, being transformed into a more formal financial service space. So what's the last challenge we observed? So the last challenge is, and this is, trust to me, it's the most difficult one, is engaging the right team. So conducting outstanding research and producing popular prototypes is only half of the battle. Having the right stakeholders, both internal and external, involved at the right time is really what is key. So you need to really think hard about the second pathway, which is the stakeholder engagement model. So remember the dual kind of track approach I was talking about. So have you involved the right functions to implement a solution that you need, you know, moving forward to implement the solutions? Are they involved in the process? Have you access to the decision makers who actually allocate resources? Because, you know, we can come up with the best ideas, but if we don't have money to implement, we will not go down. Are the operational staff involved, or is it just the management? The end user actively participating in the process. And here we mean, you know, end to end really in the process. And do you have a clear understanding of who really makes the decision? And here also it's important to know, you know, sometimes, yes, you have a senior figure, but maybe that senior figure, you know, really banks on others to make a choice or decision. So in that case, you know, it's really important working with cross-functional teams. It's something we have been insisting on in each of our processes. And as much as we insist, it's sometimes very difficult to get them around the table. And that's actually one reason also what we've changed in the process, as in our last iteration, you know, of this kind of approach is, you know, making sure that the process is fairly condensed in terms of time spent together, because we have found it's very difficult to get these cross-functional teams together for a longer, extensive period of time. There is a really big need for the user involvement. So we do that usually through, you know, either user testing at a location, or we do this through focus group discussions. But also, you know, we map the stakeholders. Okay, who is important to make the decision and when? So maybe just to summarize this, so throughout the process, you can see the problem identification, the research, the insights development, the ideation, prototyping, testing. We've tried to map the core departments that usually exist in a financial service provider. And we've tried to say, okay, when is who really necessary? So I'm not going to go through this in detail right now. It's in the playbook, obviously. So I think what you can see here is that it's so important that you always involve cross-functional teams across the different processes. And yes, the product team is primary in most of the process steps, but it's not the only one that is relevant. If you do not have buy-in, for example, from, you know, IT, from operations and other teams, it becomes very, very tricky. And also from strategic leadership, which in most cases also involves legal teams. You know, you may have come up with a great idea, but it's not implementable. if you had known before that there is a legal issue, you could have potentially, reached out at an earlier stage to, for example, the regulator to try and address the issue, Yeah, so really for us, we really look forward for you to get started. Use the toolkit to implement your own FinClinic. You can use the toolkit contains criteria for identifying potential partners, and it also establishes clear roles in terms of who can be engaged, who from the team has to be engaged what, when. I just shared with you. You also really need to make sure that you have your background research in place, and you have to schedule key workshop activities. So for us, from our experience, and you can see that on the right-hand side, what we've realized is that the ideal process takes about 3 months or 12 weeks. So you need like 2 weeks for problem identification and preparation, which it's a process of continuous iteration where you identify an initial market problem. You identify a problem maybe also from within the organization initially, and then you do research and data analytics. With secondary data and primary data you find in your own organization. From there, you now have a problem definition workshop. In that workshop is where you now move from generic problems to key market problems. Moving from how do we resolve financial inclusion to okay, we've seen a lot of young people going into the gig economy. The biggest issue they have is that their income is not constant. How do we make sure that they can better manage their day-to-day expenditures? And then from after that, it's very important. What we've realized is after the problem definition, you need to have time again for additional research. You can do a lot of research initially because you have this kind of vague problem definition. Because you're redefining the problem in the problem identification workflow, there's very concrete questions that you will have. And so it's very, very important to do another round of research. So what we have realized is that initially in the first bucket there, so again, just highlight it. In this phase here, in this kind of like first phase, what we have realized is that there is a lot of quantitative research done. So what you already have available, and maybe if you have already user feedback available or something like that, you can use that. You can use, for example, FSCT provided research, National Bureau of Statistics provides research, the central bank, TIRA, and others. So there's a lot of quantitative things that are happening there, and there's a lot of gut feel, like a lot of feedback from people coming in there. But now here, because you've already defined the problem, when we're coming to the second part here, where the additional research is happening, this is where we usually see a lot of, in-depth, very targeted deep dives happening. So it could be for a specific user group, could be for a specific kind of area, maybe because, maybe one of the challenges is around, maybe a specific type of income generating activity. So there's also a lot of qualitative research happening at that stage. And then after that, we usually do a solution design workshop. So that's a 3-day workshop whereby we now ideate the solutions, and where you have now, you see all those players that I spoke about before come together, where you really have to push your ideas from increment to transformation. And then after that, there's a phase of prototyping and development testing. And from there, we usually have a follow-up session, which is more about implementation planning. And along that way now is also when, in most cases, you re-engage with senior management. So in most times, these timelines, they can hold water. We've done before in that timeline, but in most cases, you will find that the timelines expand, mainly because people in the organizations are not aligned. And that's one of the key challenges we have observed. So it's very important that people are aligned, but also it's because people initially don't understand the importance of having, you know, all those different departments in the room. You know, people feel very protective. I'm the product team. I should be the one doing this. So getting that message across is one of the key challenges we have been facing in implementation of the FinClinic. Yeah, and then so this is just a summary of what I just went through. I'm not going to repeat this. So yeah, so at this point, I would just like to so just like to thank a couple of people who have contributed to this. So the playbook that has been put online is a working document. So on top of the playbook, we will be releasing some other content, for example, worksheets, and for example, agenda templates that we have used in the past that will supplement the actual content of the workbook and that you are welcome to use as well. So at this point, I really just want to thank the partners who are our financial service providers. One of them we have him with us today, who will share his experience as well. But also the financial sector regulators who we have worked with as well through FinClinic approaches. The local design thinkers who have been supporting us in this journey and helped refine the methodology. So thank you so much. There are 3 of them. Afro Pravo, I can see Bahia is also on the call with Prospire Africa and Kinga Mukono. Thank you so much for your support, but also the end users. We've done a lot of testing in these phases with FinClinic, and it's been quite the journey, you know, engaging so many users along the way. And I would also like to thank Brave Venture Labs. So Brave is our international design thinker with Vibanga as a lead, who has been helping us to conceptualize and reconceptualize a lot of us thinking over the years. But also I would like to thank the FSTT teams in general, the previous FSTT teams and the current ones, because it takes it's a village to come up with this kind of process and you know, keep on refining it over the years. So thank you so much. I'll stop here for now and back to you, Bernie.
Thank you so much, Julia, for sharing the playbook and what it contains, and particularly what it can do for users, both financial service providers, design thinkers, regulators, and really anyone who's interested in defining the right problem, generating meaningful insights, developing a transformative idea, and engaging the right team to deliver that impactful solution to the market. I'd like to inform everyone again that the playbook will be available via the FSDT website, fsdt.or.tz. In the meantime, we do ask you to put your questions in the chat or raise your hand, but we did promise that we will have one of the previous FinClinic participants in order to share their experience and reflections on how this process has influenced their approach to product development and market segmentation and market engagement in particular. So for the next couple of minutes, I'd like to welcome Isaac from Zan Securities and Julia to moderate this next segment as we hear about Zan Securities' experience with the FinClinic. The rest of our participants, please do stay on with us until the end, because we do have an important announcement on how you can continue working with us to unlock more opportunities for your solution development as well. Karibu sana, Julia and Isaac, for this session.
Thank you so much, Bernie. Karibu sana, Isaac. If you could briefly introduce yourself to our participants today.
Thank you so much, Julia. Thank you, the entire FSDT team, and good afternoon to everybody that is joining in on this call. I'm very happy to be here. We've heard very insightful discussions, and we are happy to contribute our experience that we've gotten throughout the whole FinClinic process. And just as well to congratulate the entire team on the launching of the FinClinic Playbook. So my name is Isaac Lubeja, as I've been introduced. I am the Advisory and Research Manager with the Zan Securities. Zan Securities is a licensed stock brokerage firm in Tanzania. We've been in the market for more than 16 years, and we primarily deal in securities dealing, offering and selling securities that are listed on the Dar es Salaam Stock Exchange. And so our particular experience with FSDT has been incredible in the past 2 years, where we're going to share more on what we've learned and what we've experienced and how we were able to transform the insights that we've gotten during the FinClinic into our operations, and how that has been very value adding into the way we see and the way we approach our operations. So thank you so much for having me here.
Thanks, Sana, Isaac. So Isaac is the manager for research and advisory at Zan Security, a brokerage a firm, and they had launched a product called Timiza Fund a couple of years back, and they went with us through the FinClinic experience. So Isaac, if you could share with our audience today, like what are some of the changes that happened for you after the experience, how you understood your clients and customers, and maybe you could explain a bit about those concrete things that changed after going through the FinClinic process.
So, thank you, Julia. So just for the benefit of the audience, we launched a product called Timiza Fund. So Timiza Fund is a collective investment scheme that we launched in May of 2024. So being a collective investment scheme, it faces a lot of interest from the general public. So anyone in the public has the ability of investing into the fund. And initially, our idea of how we were to approach the market on paper really looked very, very good. But practically going onto the market, where we faced a problem on how do we actually approach these investors that are segmented into different classes. So the way we approached the FinClinic during the ideation sessions, it really gave us the different insights, because the design thinking approach that we got to experience during the sessions enabled us to tweak a little bit how we were able to engage our clients and how we were able to face the market. And all of these measures that we've been able to get during the FinClinic sessions, we were able to adapt them into our day-to-day operations in managing of the Timiza Fund. So I can even throw a few statistics. So initially, when we launched the fund in May of 2024, we during the initial offer period, we managed to get around 210 investors. So during the 2-year period from May 2024 to March 2026, that number has grown from 210 to almost 8,000 investors. And in particular, we had we broke down the way we thought about investors in Tanzania, because the way we used to approach before using traditional media, it was hard to get different types of people. Example, university children, university people or university students, and people who are entrepreneurs. There are different ways on how to approach them in terms of the media and the social media that they use. And so it was easy for us to filter out and refine our approach into how we target these particular segments of investors into the fund. So that approach has made us be more direct, and it has highlighted how we could actually approach and get more effective outcomes in the way we engage with our clients. So initial investments has also grown, because during the IPO period, investors were contributing, a minimum of 10,000 shillings. But again, for a product to actually be good in the market, you not only need to have initial investments, but you need to retain people, you need to retain the investors, and you need to actually make them want to invest even more. So it enabled us, through the insights that we got during the sessions of the FinClinic, we were able to actually develop our product even more, make investors not only invest initially, but to uptake and even refer other people to invest more into the fund. So it changed the way we thought about customer service approach. It changed the way we thought about communicating to investors. Before, the way we used to communicate, it was communication on a need basis. If there was a problem, that is when we communicate. But now the way we approach communication is we communicate more consistently and routinely to make sure that all the investors in the fund have a memorable experience and have a good experience in the fund. And this was done because during the sessions in the FinClinic, we had participants that were physically present. So there were people that were selected that came during the session. So we were able to actually face the market by using selected people. Example, people that represented university students, people that represented entrepreneurs, people that represented people that are employed, people that represented retirees. Through engaging with them and having conversations with them, it showed us how people think about investments, and it showed us how people want particular features in relation to investment, because people are different in terms of their nature. So if you generalize everybody into one category, you're not going to bring out a good product. So all of these things has enabled us to structure products that ultimately now we have more than 8,000 investors investing into our fund.
Thank you so much, Isaac, and again, hongera sana for the really great success. Actually, it's not an easy market, our security and investment market yet. So this is really great that we've seen such a big uptake. And I recall very well from the sessions we had that what the different groups that you had mentioned, the retirees, the students, the employed, and the business owners, we're looking for was quite different. But the more we understood the needs, it was actually quite logical how to respond to those needs. And as you're saying, having them in the room makes you look at the concern significantly differently. And in most cases, we kind of skip that process because we think we know the people. We think, we're also one of them. Maybe we're also employed, maybe we're also an entrepreneur. But I guess we're so much different. And this is something which is also one part of the process of the FinClinic that we always hope our participants take home, is that we understand we are quite different from the people we are trying to serve. And we need to understand, how to bridge that gap as well. So if you could maybe just give us a bit more detail and what changed in terms of your go-to-market strategy. So you were saying that the communications, changed from reactive to proactive. If you could just unpack that a bit more, because I think that's also something which really, fostered your reinvestments, which is really great. You've seen so much reinvestment into your fund, which is something also we usually don't see in our market. So if you could just give a bit more detail on that one as well. Thank you, Isaac.
Yeah, thank you, Julia. So just to give you a little bit of insights, on the 7th of March this year, we held our first ever annual general meeting, and during the annual general meeting, we had a session where we allowed participants, specifically investors, to ask questions about their investing experience so far into the Timiza Fund. What has changed? What are the things that they want us to change and improve and develop? And they were very specific on the aspects that they've seen improving. And many of the aspects that they've touched on were the things that we tweaked and changed after getting the insights during our sessions in the FinClinic. So more to say, our customer service approach in communication has been very, very proactive in terms of engaging with clients, even if we see them that they've been very, should I use the word idle? So if they haven't made any investments for a long time, we give them insights and facts about investing that triggers them to make investments into the fund. We give them free education services. So we have a weekly seminar that we invite people on a virtual call, specific investors on the fund, and we give them insights about how the fund is doing, general insights about the market, value adding facts about investments in the capital markets in Tanzania. So it's more of a classroom session that people have the ability to ask questions, and they can learn as well on what is actually going on in the market. So all of these are delivered free of charge. But again, we also have different channels of communication because, again, there are different types of groups of people who invest. So you have people that have smartphones, but you have people that do not have smartphones. How are you going to reach people who don't have smartphones, especially the people that are not physically in let's say, in urban areas like Dar es Salaam, maybe they're in rural areas. So we have adapted push notification messages that reach people that don't even have smartphones to give them insights about investment. So all is to say, we're trying to capture all the segments of different groups of people that are invested. So that area has changed. And where has it originated from? It has originated from the physical interviews that we were doing with the selected participants that came in during the sessions, that we were able to get those insights. So Julia said something very specific, which I can relate to, because initially we thought that because we're employed, because we're in the corporate world, we think we understand people who are in the corporate world. But when you have a conversation with this type of person, you come to understand that our thinking is different, is very skewed. So you might have an idea, you might think that you've identified a problem and you have a solution on paper. But once you go to the market and you speak to these people, you come to understand that there's more refining that needs to be done. And there's more change that needs to be done for you to have a product that is waterproof and that can actually work in the market. So those are a few examples of how we've been able to see the changes and how we've been able to increase the quality of our engagement with the clients, with investors, and make the fund even grow much larger. So another area as well is being more investor friendly, having different channels of investments from to different people. So in the beginning, before we participated in the sessions, we had a very narrow approach in terms of areas that people could invest in the fund. But because we had different interviews with people that participated during the sessions in the FinClinic, we came to understand that there are different types of investors that see different payment methods, how they use different payment methods. There are people that do not use banking services. There are people that use mobile money services. There are people that use cash services. So we were able to incorporate all these aspects to make investments into the fund very, very friendly. Thank you, Julie.
Thank you so much. I think my last question to you is, so you say that you've looked at different investment products now. So what I wanted to understand is, do you believe that as you're trying to venture now also in more diversified products for investment for the different segments, how do you approach, having had the FinClinic approach, how do you approach now the product development and design journey for these new products?
So thank you very much. So our approach right now is a very holistic approach and making it very pragmatic as much as we can. So I was very keen on looking at the playbook, and you mentioned I have actually seen the different areas that can be very insightful for us. So example, we need to understand, we need to have, a problem definition once we want to develop a new product. We can't bring a product into the market once we have not identified who this product is for and what is there, why is it coming, what is it coming to solve into the market. And research is very important in terms of identifying who are the target, what is the target market for this product that is actually coming into the market, and how can we further develop insights and see if we can have actionable insights in terms of understanding how far or how could we reach this product to a lot of people into the market, especially groups that could perhaps be segregated, that don't have accessibility to maybe financial literacy or don't have accessibility to a mobile network. So it has made our approach very, very holistic right now. And we don't just use our thinking, but we also engage with other people. We engage with the market to see if our thinking of product development is actually very relevant to the market. If we bring this product to the market, how is it going to be received to the prospective investors that we are prospecting to face into the market? So all of these things have informed us on a very holistic manner in regards to how we approach product development. And very, very soon, we're going to have additional products that we're going to introduce into the market. And I can already see the way our team is prepared. We are prepared in a very different way compared to the way we launched our Timiza Fund in 2024, because now we are adapting and we're utilizing the insights and all of the things that we've got during the sessions that we've attended into the FinClinic. So it's a very holistic approach that we're using right now in terms of our product development strategy.
Asante sana. Thank you so much, Isaac. And yeah, we also, it's great to hear that you're also seeing new things in the playbook, because we also hope that actually even especially the people that previously have attended FinClinics will actually be able to also use it as a tool. Because we have really tried to learn from each of the FinClinics what has worked and what hasn't worked. And try then to continuously, optimize the process itself. So at this point, thank you so much, Isaac. And I would like to return it to Bernie. Asante sana.
Asante, thank you so much, Julia.
Thanks to you both, Julia and Isaac, for that conversation, because it does shed a light for our future FinClinic Playbook users in terms of what can the Playbook do for them and how might this approach support them in their journeys of developing user-responsive solutions. I think, Isaac, you laid out a very vivid account of how, by focusing more on the user, you were able to really generate more customers for your product. There aren't any questions in the chat, but there is a comment from God Savior, Christopher Oria, who is saying that this is a commendable initiative. Many products and businesses fail at their early stage due to the very factors that we've outlined in this presentation. He's read a book by Steve Blank and sees how the playbook that FSDT is putting up strongly reflects those principles, particularly around structured validation, customer understanding, and iterative development. The playbook itself will be available on the FSDT website, fsdt.or.tz. I'd like to also just pause there and see if there are people and guests in our audience who would like to raise a question or share their reaction to the presentation so far. Please feel free to either unmute your microphone and speak, or share, comment in the chat, or question in the chat.
All right. Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Brian Mushi, calling from Gator, and I'm a financial developer myself, financial fintech developer. And I just wanted to ask a question whether FSDT has a mechanism of connecting these innovators and founders with other stakeholders to help them get their MVP tried out. Because for most of us, you might create a platform, but you find that you are failing to get people who will engage with you in order to give it a trial into the market. Because there are many barriers, as you know, compliances and so whatnot. So I wanted to know if FSDT has a way of connecting these people and the founders so that they can give their platforms a tryout, a test. Thank you.
Thank you, Brian, for that question. I will direct that to Julia, but if there's any other question, maybe let's collect 2 or 3 before she responds. Okay, since there's no other question for now, Julia, I'll allow you to respond to that as other participants think of their questions. So the question is, how does FSDT support founders with their MVP testers that they validate the idea?
Yeah, okay. Thank you for that. So thanks, Brian, and thanks for joining all the way from Gator. Yeah, so regarding support to, I guess, fintechs or founders. So currently, FSC doesn't have a specific program for fintech or founders. But it doesn't mean that there is no avenue for support. Actually, we do believe, and I think I said this during the presentation, we believe in partnership. So one of the things that has emerged a lot from our FinClinics is people partnering, like FSPs partnering up with others, including fintechs. The other thing that I would like to say is that within the FinClinic itself, we do off-platform testing. So, and the FinClinic is not only for incumbents, so it's not only for established FSPs. It's also open to others. And within that FinClinic, we do off-platform testing of products with user groups. So this is part of the program. However, the way the current FinClinic program is designed, we do not provide, let's say, post test funding at this point, because we do believe that, as a provider, if there is a proof of concept established, to be able to pick that up moving forward. Yeah. I hope that answers the question.
Thanks, Julia, for that response. I see Brian is satisfied with that answer. Is there any other question from the audience or a reaction to what we've presented? Comments, if there are any other participants of former FinClinics who would like to share their testimonies to advocate for the download of this playbook and the use of this playbook for product designs in the future. I see no additions in the chat. Well, as we let that information, there was a lot to take in about the playbook itself and the FinClinic approach. So while you might not have questions or comments at this moment, we are still available in the future to respond to any queries regarding the playbook or the FinClinic approach in general. For the individuals, organizations that would like to continue on this journey with us, I'd like to welcome you, Julia, again to give that well anticipated announcement on how might the financial service providers or other players who are on the call be able to leverage this opportunity to work with FSDT on a FinClinic. Karibu, Julia.
Yeah, thank you very much, Bernie. In April, we shall be kicking off our final 4 rounds of FinClinic, for this FSCT strategy. So FSCT is currently in a strategy transition phase. So we are phasing out the old strategy, and with financial year 2026, 2027 coming, we are entering into a new strategy as FSTT, and so this means the end of the current FinClinic model as we have it, but we have 4 final slots available, and we would like to invite anybody who is interested, whether financial service provider or a regulator, to join the FinClinic with us. So we would kick this off in April, and if the timeline holds as we shared before, it would be April, June latest to conclude the FinClinic activity. So at this time around, we want to address 2 problem statements. And if you believe you are actually, this is a problem statement that resonates with you and your organization, then you're warmly welcome to reach out to us. So the first problem statement is, how might we help rural youth turn unpredictable incomes into reliable financial progress to achieve their goals? And the second one is, how might we enable rural women to manage income volatility and shocks to continue to progress toward greater economic independence? So those are the 2 problem statements that we look forward to think through, analyze, and ideate around, and come up with solutions. Maybe also one more thing to Brian's question. Actually, in this last batch of FinClinics we did, we had a very, I would say, uncommon participant in a FinClinic. So we had an NGO participating in the FinClinic that had a problem of such kind of similar nature, and they were basically participating, trying to now look for a solution. And now we are actually looking for a financial service provider who can deploy the solution that we came up with. So, so with that being said, I hope also this shows you, okay, there are different pathways of how to use the FinClinic and how to, really collaborate in the process itself. Yeah, so if you're interested, please reach out, write an email either to info@fsct.or.tz or respond to the email you got as an invite to this webinar. So I'm going to go back to the 2 questions. And so you're welcome to reach out to us, and we can start and engage, and you can participate in the process, experience the playbook firsthand. And hopefully, as Isaac said, moving forward, use the approach for other developments in your companies. Thank you, Bernie.
Thanks so much, Julia, for sharing. How might we help rural youth turn unpredictable incomes into reliable financial progress to achieve their goals? And how might we enable rural women to manage income volatility and shocks to continue to progress towards greater economic independence. So if you're a financial service provider or any organization looking to help answer these through designing meaningful solutions for these customer segments, we welcome you so much to participate in our 4 slots of FinClinic that are remaining for this strategic period. That brings us to close to an end of our session, but I would like to welcome one last speaker from FSDT to offer some closing remarks. Our Head of Operations and Finance, Ms. Agatha, please, karibu for your closing remarks.
Asante sana, Bernie. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Thank you very much. Good evening, partners, colleagues, and everyone in the call. So as we come to the end of this webinar, I would like to extend my sincere appreciation to all of you for taking time to join us today for the launch of the FinClinic Playbook. I've just noticed that the number of participants has remained consistent since the session started, Santeni-san. But also special thank you to our presenters, Julia and Isaac, for doing a wonderful presentation. I would also like to join Julia to extend a special thank you to our previous FinClinic participants, especially our design thinkers, whose dedication, creativity, and willingness to challenge traditional approaches have been instrumental in shaping the FinClinic journey and coming up with this playbook. But also to Isaac and Sun Securities team, our sincere gratitude for sharing your insights, which bear witness to the impact of human-centered design in shaping relevant financial solutions, and that this is just not a theory, but a solution that has driven real impact. We appreciate your partnership and openness, and we look forward to working together in the future as opportunities arises. So as we close the session, the most important thing to us, but to all of us, is how the playbook is being utilized and put into use to drive the real impact. I would like to encourage all of you to download the playbook from our website, as Bernie has guided, and actively use it, which is designed as a practical guiding tool to support you in translating insights into impactful solutions. I also invite and encourage you to apply for the FinClinic opportunity, which is an avenue to work alongside FSDT in exploring new markets, strengthening your business cases, and redesigning products that respond to the needs of your customers. We look forward to continuing this journey together, collaborating, learning, and innovating to unlock greater opportunities for underserved segments across the country. Thank you once again for your time, your contribution, your commitment. I wish all of you a wonderful evening. Asanteni-san. Back to you, Ben.
Thank you so much, Agatha, for those closing remarks. And thank you all for coming. I've been your host, Bernie Shana, Knowledge Manager at FSDT. Please note that we will be sharing the playbook via email after this session, and it will be available through the FSD Tanzania website's Resource and Knowledge app. I've added the link there in the chat for you to go directly after this session. And this is available for broad use, and so if you feel so inclined, do share it. Also remain following us on our social media sites, FSD Tanzania, in order to get information when we have similar engagements in the future. Thank you all so much for coming. This marks the end of our session for today.
Asanteni.
Thank you, team.